Hello and welcome to Off the Battlefield episode 3 of season 2. Doing an episode today all about commentary specific. So we've got 3 special guests, 2 previous hosts.
Damn right.
Glad
Hi
to
there.
be back, I think. Possibly.
Yeah, I missed
Hell
it.
no, I want to sleep. No, it's great to be back, honestly.
So obviously, as I'm sure anyone who's followed the UK melee scene even slightly has noticed there's been a bit of a big discussion on commentary. So I thought it'd be a good idea to get 3 of the more established commentators in the UK, I'd say. Well, at least 2. Good, Henry.
Oh, wow, okay then.
More of the established commentators in the UK.
God
So probably a good idea for you to introduce yourselves. I don't know who wants to go first.
I guess
Lawrence?
less established first or most
Me.
established?
Yeah, we'll go from least to most important.
All right, well, I'll go first then. Hi, guys. My name is Lawrence. I go by the tag Lorenzo, or most people in the UK seem to call me Lolo, so call me that if you like.
Lolo.
I run I do quite a lot of the stuff for Melee in London with regards to weekly tournaments and weekly fests, and sometimes I do a bit of commentary. So yeah, I've been doing commentary more or less since I started, which is a couple of years. So yeah, Lo, I guess I have some authority with regards to what we're talking about. Who wants to go next?
Yeah, cool. Who's next?
Right,
Which
I'll
of you
go
is going to be humble?
I'll go next. I'm Skrull. I have the biggest ego in the UK scene because I'm clearly the best commentator. No, I'm kidding. I'm Skrull. I am from the northeast. Like Lorenzo said, similar to Lorenzo, I've been doing commentary sort of since I started because people were just sort of like, you have a decent-ish voice. Here's a microphone. Talk into it. And I was like, all right, sure. I like Melee enough to do that. Commentated a bit of Beast, which is probably where a lot of people will know me from. I did a bit of commentary at Heir to the Throne as well, back in the summer of 2015. I play Ice Climbers and I wobble a lot. And that's pretty much how a lot of people know me. Commentary or wobbling, that's about it. So yeah, that's me.
Cool. And now, finally, our most important guest.
Clearly, the only one who's commentated a top 8. Well, a top 8 at the national, anyway.
Oh, but
Yeah,
not,
twice
Not,
actually.
not the most important, just another one. My name's Bowie. Obviously, I'm from London. I'm a Smash 4 commentator mostly. I do obviously dabble in the other games as well. That's not all I do in the scene. I'm also part of DAT team, which is UK's, I guess, for lack of a better word, premier Smash 4 TO team, running the majority of the largest nationals. We ran DBC 7, which was a international, and are part of the Smash Europe circuit. And as was said, obviously, I commentated top 8 with D1 at Beast 5 last year, and I did top 8s of doubles and singles alongside Silent Doom, and trading off with the American commentators of Max and Cyanide. Yeah, that's kind of what I do in Smash, at least.
Cool. So,
He's also a prominent speedrunner.
We'll get onto that in a bit.
You missed a Nintendo UK at the moment as well, aren't you?
I do a lot of things.
His CV's expanded.
It's getting better.
So, commentary. Now, the thing that's been interesting me, especially looking at, because everyone's got something to say about commentary, especially with all of these, it's quite popular that people do sort of commentary feedback threads and stuff like that. Everyone has something to say. And everyone seems to have very different opinions about what makes a good commentator, or what they want to see from their commentary or things like that. So I've got a number of things I want to run through, but I think first thing would be going from person to person and sort of saying, well, okay, to you, what makes a good commentator? And we'll start with Bowie.
Okay, this is a very important question, and I think it's been something I've talked about this with many people, and it's different things. I mean, obviously we're going to get onto it later about styles of commentary, but there are 3 main styles of commentary, obviously. Play-by-play, color casting, and analytical casting. So it's kind of, I think the most important thing for a caster to be is, I think a lot of people will not agree with me, but you don't want to be proficient in all of them. I think a good commentator is someone who takes one of those 3 and hones it to a fine craft, and then has experience in the other 2. I think that if you try to become too many kinds of things, you'll water down your overall experience. A good commentator is someone who takes one skill, hones it to perfection, or hones it to as good as it can be, creates a brand within that, and then picks from other elements of each other style and makes that kind of enhance their main commentary style. I'm speaking as a play-by-play commentator, so
is that
play for me.
is that what you'd say your style is? Is that a conscious decision by you? So did you say, right, I'm going to be a play-by-play commentator, or did you get into it and then you fell into that style, or?
It's more a case of when I was picking up commentary, I was kind of interested in just the overall form, being able to speak about games that are happening and talk about kind of a game in that way. I was going for I wasn't really quite sure what I thought was most important, and that's kind of I am coming from an acting background as well. Like, my main career is as an actor, so I thought entertaining, that kind of storytelling is the most important thing. That's what an actor does, and I think play-by-play does that the best. So coming from an acting point of view, that's why I prefer play-by-play, to talk about what's happening on screen, to talk about what is actually going on, and then from there kind of getting excited about what's going on or trying to explain what's going on. But unless you can say what is actually going on, and make that interesting,
understanding it,
and I think it was a decision that I knew that was my strongest asset because of my background. I went, I know that I can tell a story because I do it for a job. So let's do it for something that I love.
Cool. What about anyone else? Like Henry, Lawrence, what do you think about what makes good, solid commentary?
Makes good.
Or any examples as well? I don't know if you've got, for example, like Bowie, if you'd be interested, if you had someone you look up to or a commentator you think, right, well, they're sort of what I epitomise as brilliant commentary.
Oh, yeah. Sorry to kind of keep going.
Go for it, mate. Go for it.
I think, there's something I missed out actually about being a good commentator as well, being a really good team player. Because normally people commentate in twos, and you need to know when to let your co-commentator talk and when neither of you should be talking. You have to be very conscious about what's going on. Mm-hmm. In terms of a commentator that I look up to, it's quite hard to say. Because there are many great commentators out there, and commentators that I like for different reasons, and commentators that I say that, although are hugely popular and are very good at one aspect, they're not overall good commentators because they focus too much on certain things and kind of lose the focus. Having worked with D1, he's a very respectful commentator, in the fact that it was my first top 8, and he was very experienced and he knew that, but he let me have my time. Mm-hmm. I think having worked in that way with him, I was very humbled by that, and I think that kind of helped me in that vein. So I think I look up to him in terms of having worked with him, and not just as a commentator by him himself. I'm just trying to think. Wobbles is a fantastic commentator as well, actually. Wobbles is really, really good on the Melee side. Very analytical, very clean in the way that he delivers, with just enough of his personality, but it's not overriding. He still talks about the game. So I think Wobbles is brilliant.
What about you, Henry, in regards to what do you feel like good commentary and good commentators and
Here's the thing, with commentary alone, the idea of commentary is so subjective because you can like someone's style dependent on, how you want to perceive the game. I've received so many comments of, what do you think of because as an Ice Climbers player, people are always asking me, what I think of wobbling, and in the end I'm just it's part of the game, it's sort of what you've got to deal with, which of course is very biased, but whatever. And I think that's the same with commentary, people, I know people in the community who don't like specific commentators because they try and instill, like Bowie said, too much of their personality rather than any of the game analysis, rather than any of the sort of approach to telling the story of what is happening and portraying it in that sort of exciting manner. Like people like HMW and Phil, because it's very much them talking. It's very much not an exaggerated sense of themselves. If you go back and watch their old sets on HMW's channel from back in 2009, 2000, even back to maybe 2007, from the early Genesis, VODs. It's just them being themselves and just talking about not just the players but also just like having fun. I think a crucial thing for me when it comes to what I personally consider to be good commentary, it's having that passion for not just the game but the community. Like that's one of the reasons why like when I was doing when I did commentary for KOTN all the way back in 2014, one thing that really stuck with me was what Wills said to me after I had finished after the tournament was finished. He said to me, it seems like you really do have that passion for the game. And when I think about it, I really do love this community and this game, and I'm sure everyone in this Skype call wouldn't really be here unless they did have that passion for this game and for this community that we want.
Absolutely.
Exactly. We want this content to be produced, and we care so much about this comment. Like I know people who understand this game who are like, well, why do you care so much about commentary? And it's because, well, we are the bridge between the viewer and the actual game that is happening. We are that divide between the audience and the game. Like there will have been new people in the Beast stream who don't know the community in either the European scene or the overall worldwide scene, and will have just been tuning in for the first time to watch their first tournament. And commentary is very, very crucial because we need to, tell the story of what's happening. Trying to maybe instill a bit of history into the game, as well as just sort of like having all of this energy and momentum to sort of portray the excitement of the game. Commentary is very hard. I think we haven't really explained like commentary is difficult. Like I think one of my personal skills is just sort of like filling in blank space because I can just gab on a lot, as my parents like to explain to me. Like, I don't really talk. I just sort of say things, and they all sort of seem to connect. Like I'm doing now, probably. But it's filling that, filling dead air. Like, if you have too much dead air, or radio silence, as it's known in, like, radio terms, then, it's not enjoyable. And that's why I think good commentary is. It's having this ability. It's difficult, because you have to juggle all of these different things and make sure that you still have enough energy and you don't sound like, I don't know, tone dead. But yeah, that's my view on good commentary. If we are to sort of like simplify it down, it's just passion. It's just passion. It's just passion to me. I don't know.
So passion, basically. So being able to sort of.
I realise I just rambled on then when I could have just summarised it as passion for a game and a community, which is 15 years old plus.
It's fine. You're showing your passion.
There we go. Full
Lawrence?
circle.
For me, there is one thing that says, is this commentary? I don't think there is a quintessentially good way to commentate. I just think that, to me, good commentary is purely being able to add something to whoever is, to the experience of watching a set, right? Mm-hmm. If you're watching Smash, you're still watching something. Let's say it's good Smash. Let's say it's like, top 8 Beast Smash, for example. You're still watching something amazing. Like, those of us those people watching the Twitch stream, watching the VODs, with or without the commentary, you're still watching something fantastic, right? So, what commentary in my eyes is being able to just add something to the experience of watching Melee or Smash 4 or whatever else you're watching. And this I think is true of any kind of is true of any game, right? For basically, if you're when I watch sets and I think and I listen to the commentary, I think, is this commentary actually adding anything to what I'm watching? Is it superfluous, or does it actually? Am I enjoying it? If I'm enjoying the commentary, then I think it is good commentary.
Does it have to be analytical for you to enjoy it, though, or can it be?
No, not at all. It can just be, and it depends on the setting. Look, like, I think some of the commentary at Foundry is great. I think some of the commentary at just at weeklies where people go on tirades, I think that's still enjoyable. I'm not sure if it's necessarily good commentary. I just think that it's making me continue to watch because I'm enjoying myself and I'm having fun. You know what I mean? So like, I just think, okay, I don't. Basically, when you're on the mic and you're commentating, you've just got to provide, in my opinion, extra entertainment value to what you're watching. There's also, as we've said, the question of providing extra insight into whatever you're doing, right? Into whatever's going on. I think this is more especially important when you're watching something that's really quite serious, right?
Because
if you're no, go for it.
Sorry, just because the only thing I was going to add is that, especially from everything I've seen, like there's so many people offering so much different feedback about commentary, and a lot of it you've almost got to pick and choose because they're all talking about very different styles of commentators. Like some people put a lot of stock in just the sheer entertainment value. I mean, like I feel the same way as well. I mean, as long as I'm being entertained by what I'm watching, I don't necessarily care if it's, you know, the most analytical game insight that I can get, as long as it's entertaining. You know,
Absolutely.
while other people absolutely care 100% about it being analytical and like getting insights into the game and this and that. And it seems actually quite hard to be a commentator because it seems like it's impossible.
A lot of it
to
is
keep
quite
everyone happy.
subjective. A lot of it is very subjective. Some people, like especially if you have a personality as a commentator, right? If you have someone like Scar or Mr. Love or anyone like that, if you have commentators like that, some people are going to you're going to love them, right? Because because they've got big personalities.
Oh, who doesn't like Scar? Come on.
But
Who does not like Scar?
some people are gonna find him. I love Scar, but some people are gonna find him irritating, aren't they? Because he's got a big personality. Not everybody can be happy about like
I think that's one of the hardest parts. You can't please everyone with commentary, and people are going to have like it's been mentioned, different ideas of what makes good commentary. And if you like that sort of bigger person, like I saw on one of the threads on Melee UK about commentary, someone was like more repeatable names on stream, and that can be taken for commentary as well. Like
people just want, yeah,
they just want to be entertained. Like I think it's like what you said. Like I think just thinking back to Air 2, I don't think anybody really cared that, you know, left and played some guy in his pool and went Pichu and Kirby on stream, because it was a majority of the time just me and Fuzzy just laughing about it, and just, you know, it was the pure entertainment value. And I think that the same can be applied for commentary.
But it's interesting because it seems like you, Lawrence, and Henry seem to be sort of saying, and correct me if I'm wrong at any point, but it seems like you're saying, well, just be you. Sort of be you to the best you can do and try and be entertaining with that. And it seemed like Bowie was talking more a bit, well, like, actually, no, pick an area, pick a craft, and really try and hone it down. Like, is that wrong at all? Or
I think to an extent you're right, and I think to an extent it's sort of a bit of both. Like at the start, like for example, I think I still struggle to find a style. Like you've mentioned to me on a couple of occasions, I do still struggle to find a style, and I think it's because I'm still trying to sort of work out what my sort of strengths are. Am I a play-by-play? Am I a historian of Smash? Because I know a lot of the history of it and all this sort of, you know, jargon. And would people be interested in hearing that and stories? Like, I don't know. Like, I think it's sort of a developmental process. Like, you're constantly developing your style, and you've got to start from somewhere.
I mean, if I may just add something.
Yeah, go for it.
Regarding, obviously, saying that, you know, I mean, someone was saying earlier that, you know, no one cared that Leffen was playing Pichu against a random guy in pool. I think that plays in part about how you know, you go about your commentary, because, you know, every tournament has like an emotional narrative, and that you know, the emotional investment increases as the tournament goes further on. Honestly, you're not going to get the most analytical and most intense commentary in pools. You do get some amazing games, and, you know, I don't begrudge a commentator for sitting there going, you know, and being a little bit more lax with it. But I think what I'll throw the word out now, and I'll get into it later on in the podcast when I think it's actually more relevant to talk about it. But the thing that I think is most important, at least from my perspective, if the community genuinely wants to go down the route of quote unquote esports, professionalism is the most important thing. And then that does not mean you have to be like professional, as in, you know, suited up, very, very specific, very, very, you know, generic and bland, and, you know, very. I'm not asking you to sit there and be, you know, a football commentator and, you know, just do it like that. It's not. It's very unique. It's very different. It's a completely different vibe. But professionalism is not just sitting there and behaving yourself and not, you know, catering to the community that you come from, but it's about a way in which you present to an audience and to a wider group of people what is going on. And I think professionalism is something that we lack as a community.
I would 100% agree with that.
Do you think that's something people should really be thinking about, like, going forwards? Because obviously, you know, even the Smash UK scene now compared to even a year or 2 years ago is very different, and it continues to change, not just in the UK but across the world. So do you think that if you are in a position where you're going to take commentary seriously, that you do need to start considering maybe how you're being perceived and professionalism, things like that? Or
well, again, this is a bit of a grey area, because we've had issues, especially recently. There was a post out that came up on Smash UK where, you know, people were saying that, you know, we're losing the community feeling and that kind of vibe and the, you know, the origin of where we were, you know, because Smash is a grassroots community, and it will always be, you know, started out as people, you know, getting together with friends, playing in living rooms or basements or wherever, you know, wherever any of those stereotypes take you. But, you know, and, you know, the back and forth, the banter, all that kind of stuff is a part of the community and where we grew. But we have to, you know, everyone who sits there and wants to be an esport and then won't let go of that origin, they're not going to be, it's not, you know, that's what's holding it back from becoming an esport. And I made this point actually at Beast when I was on commentary with Max Ketchum. As I said, I don't think Smash is an esport yet. It has all of the production value. It has all of the, America at least has the production value, and America has the money going into it. Unfortunately, the European scene doesn't. Until that globalizes, maybe, but we're not an esport yet. And I think that the community's outlook and the community's the way the community is behaving, I think, is what's really keeping it from being an esport just now. There's a lot of people who have a lot of heart and really want it to do well, and it can be that esport. We have to actually look at what an esport is and how we can actually achieve being an esport. And if people are sitting there going, "Oh yeah, I want it to be an esport, but I don't want to let go of, you know, the original community values," it's like, well, then you're not going to be going anywhere, because esport is global, and your little, you know, grassroots community isn't global. And I think those, you know, those have to be taken into consideration. And it starts to a degree with the commentary, because that's as I think Skrull was saying, as Skrull was saying earlier as well. It's like that's the window into the scene, you know. And if people are coming to a stream or coming to a community, and that's what they're hearing, is a kind of unprofessional kind of not childish, but, you know, very exclusive sound coming from a community, it's harder to get on board with it.
And interestingly, with that as well, like, even like when it's interesting though, whenever we talk about like esports, like quote unquote esports commentary, people automatically jump to like cursing and that sort of thing. And yes, cursing is like is a pretty important part of, like, you know, the professionalism. Like, you wouldn't say this sort of stuff at a job interview. So if you want to like portray a professional image, why would you say it in front of like however many 100 or 1,000 or whatever the number of people watching the stream is? Why would you, you know, sort of say that? And it's a very crucial factor of it. But I don't think that you need to sort of like we can still maintain elements of grassroots community. I think one of the most important things, I think, in the recent years is getting Smash at the Foundry. Like, that entire sort of subgenre of Smash is, I think, almost... It's so intriguing to look at that. Like, I've seen more people tune into the Foundry than tune into European tournaments, because it's that sort of like that welcome break from the consistent, you know, quote unquote, again, air quotes, professional commentary. But it doesn't mean we can't maintain certain elements of that grassroots community. Another example right here in the UK is, I think, one of the best examples, Heir to the Throne. Like, it still maintains that idea of what Smash was, as is my understanding, in the UK many years ago, with residential tournaments. You know, a weekend at at a university halls, with, you know, Melee being in the main hall. And it still has that very grassroots feeling, but at the same time there's an element of professionalism there. And I think it's a good mix, and I do believe that there can be a sort of mix, but if we want it to really go the distance as, once again, quote unquote, an esport, we do need to take into account that professional vibe. And yeah, commentary is crucial in that regard. Because it's not just how the community as a whole will perceive the stream, it's anyone else who could ever possibly take an interest in Smash. Like, it's hypothetical, of course, like businesses like Red Bull,
Yep.
you know,
There's
are
a
now
lot of money to be had out there if it's kind of if a company is looking to support it doesn't see it as marketable because the product isn't marketable for more than just our scene, then it's not going to be marketable.
100%. I'm agree. I'm
And
down with
well,
that, yeah.
And everyone always says about cursing, but this is the thing. We are the voice or the sound of these communities, and if we're not, if we haven't got a diverse vocabulary enough to still banter and be and to joke and to jive and to jape or whatever you want to say, why do you have to say? Am I allowed to swear? I don't know, but why would you be effing and blinding when you can just say something else? There are many other words in the English language to be able to, use to get across what you're trying to say without having to resort to swearing. Swearing is not the be-all and end-all of the community. Swearing is just this thing that people get caught up on. Oh, I can't swear. No, you can't swear. Use a different word. End of. How is that so hard?
Okay, one of the things I'm going to say with regards to esports commentary, and I mean this is tying in with also, if you want to talk about commentary styles, then analytical style is one of the biggest issues with analysis in Melee. Is you have to have quite a serious, in my opinion, you have to really know what you're talking about to do analysis in a game like Melee or Smash 4, or as in the sense of, if you're going to try to add insight into this game with regards to what's going on, you need to know what you're talking about. And often, one of the things about having like serious commentators is they have to have a pretty solid grounding as players themselves if they're going to be able to actually provide good insight into the game. That's my feeling, and I think this is one of the issues you might have with the idea of esports commentary, is that esports commentary, as far as I understand it, is supposed to be very inviting, in the sense of anyone should be able to watch it and get something out of it, right? Well, that's kind of, it's very doable in Melee, but Melee's, I keep saying, basically, I think it's more doable in Smash 4. I think in Melee is very fast. I think Smash 4 is also fast, but the point is that
it's harder to pinpoint in how quickly it moves why certain things are good and bad. It's harder to kind of like sit there and lock down the key points of why someone's doing well and why someone isn't. And
stuff's like happening too quickly.
But the thing is, and I think this is where the commentators have to step it up and be able to quickly look at a game, see what happened, and say. They have to be able. This is why I think it's difficult to be a good Melee caster as well. And I think what you're saying about them being they don't have to be a top player, but they have to have a solid grounding in what's going on, so that when they are watching a game, they can see it, immediately pinpoint what was good, and focus. Don't just talk about everything. Focus. You need to be able to say that was good, not maybe he did maybe if there was a wonderful string of movements to make one thing happen, find the best bit of it and to say why. Was it a ledge cancel? Was it a particular decision to go to wave dash in a certain way? Was it particularly using a move or DIing a certain way to make something happen? You can't just say all of it. So you have to focus. And if it's a long string, like if you watch any West Bulls combo, I thought actually that Fausta. I believe it was Fausta and
Fausta and Imperfect. Top
if you watch their game, if you watch the West Bulls Leffen game, set 2 in losers, when West Bulls went back to Falco and started off with he just went hell for leather in the first bit, and there was just some incredible like ledge cancelling he was doing with side B. Like they did a very, very good job of saying what particular things here and there were really, really good. They didn't just go this, they were just like that there was good, that there was good, that there was good. Now this is the thing. Again, if you want to be esports, the reason that's so good is because the people who know their stuff, the people who know their shit, who know everything about that game, they'll be able to fill in the blanks about how those good things led on from each other. If someone's not new to the game, they'll be able to look at those points and just say, oh yeah, okay, that was cool, and that was cool. Great, I'm entertained. That's all they need to know. Because they don't need to know anything else. But the ones who do know something can fill in the gaps.
So there is such a thing as too much analysis, you think?
Yes, 100%.
Absolutely. This is also with regards to play-by-play. I think this is a very similar thing with regards to how you have to, if you want to do quote-unquote play-by-play commentary. I mean, Bowie, as you said, this is primarily your field, but I mean, in my opinion, play-by-play in the entire thing is pointless. You're watching it. You don't need to be told everything.
Like, you don't.
So, yeah, actually, my point is you have to add something.
Yes, yes. So,
in play-by-play, how would you do that in play-by-play?
Well, the thing is, the adding of something comes from your intonation, especially for a play-by-play. For a hype caster, for a color commentator, that's all about bringing the hype. It's about bringing your energy, the excitement, you know, being funny, or, you know, saying something that really kind of makes everyone go, oh, this is exciting. Because you can't just sit there and go, ooh, oh, that was great. Oh, that's not good color casting. You'll hear the good color casters, like, let's say someone he's a very good entertainer. I'll give him that is EE. He's very quick-witted. He's very, very good at kind of like just throwing out phrases and quips that are kind of like, that was good. Because he uses the characters, he uses the players, and uses all the kind of knowledge that he has on the screen to think of his vocabulary and throw out like you know, funny sayings and ways in which he can make that hype. And that's really, really good for color. For PvP, it comes from how you cast the game. It comes from, because, for example, if you get two PvP commentators, I know people who what they are saying is really good, and you know they're casting it well. They're saying what they need to say really to get someone who, if they were to close their eyes and listen to it, would know what's happening. Because that's the most important thing. Commentary should be that someone, if they weren't watching it, would know what's going on. But if they're just sitting there going, and that was a very, very solid forward smash into, you know, air dodge read into that, it's all one tone, it's down here, there's nothing going on. You're like, how is that interesting? What am I doing? But if you have someone who's like up and down, and they're kind of like bringing it down, oh, that was, you know, and they have these different sounds in their voice, that the ride as such is not just this kind of flat plane. It has ups, it has downs, it has slower moments, it has the color as such is not what you're saying, but how you're saying it. Sure. And I think that's the uniqueness that every person can bring to play-by-play, at least. You know, people's just general voices can be really good. Like Max Ketchum, I think, if you listen to his tonality and the way in which he actually speaks when he's doing commentary, he's got a fantastic, I want to say, timbre to his voice. It's very commanding. It's very strong. It's got this element of wit to it, and it's got this kind of nice like rise to the sound. It's very bouncy, which makes him very, very good for play-by-play if he focuses on it. And I think that's kind of what I like to listen to when I'm listening to someone talk about what's happening.
Is tone and things like that, is that important, do you think? Like, do you need to have a voice for commentary, like a certain...
Yeah, it's harsh to say yes, because there are some people who are very good at saying stuff but just don't have good voices. But I think... I think it is true. I know it's very, very harsh, because, you know, there are some people in the Smash 4 community who, bless them, are, you know, their content is great, but I'm listening to them just like, come on, change your tone, say it in a different way, and that's
say it now.
Yeah, I mean, that is learnable. It's not that you either have it or you don't. I guess there are some people whose voices are just so annoying that you just can't listen to it. I don't know how annoying my voice is. No one's come up to me yet and said, please stop talking, I want to grate my face. But, you know...
Well, actually, now we're all here.
Some people are like blessed with just beautiful voices as well. You're just like, please commentate more. You guys know Papa Paint?
I do know Papa Paint. Papa Paint's voice is
godlike. Oh my god!
It's like being sung to. It's wonderful. But that also because it comes from him being a musician. Like,
Is he
that's-
actually? Is he actually?
He's a bass player and singer, and I think that's a very interesting dynamic as well. Because people like Bo mentioned earlier, he comes from an acting background. One thing I was always told in
helps.
school was that I had a voice for talking, because whenever I do like public speaking assignments, I was excelling in them. And I think that's sort of like, I think I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum. I know a little, I know a fair bit, but like I feel like my voice tends to carry me a lot, rather than it being the other way around. My information doesn't carry me; it's my voice rather.
The thing is, that's just as important. If you have a voice that someone will listen to and go, "Oh, actually, I like that," it's just as good.
Yeah.
And and as I say, you're very emotive when you speak. You go, okay, I can tell how you're feeling, and where you're going with something. I can actually hear before you say it where your thoughts are going, because you use the sound of your voice to actually bring something along with you. It's part of your style, and I mean, this is going like on a serious little tangent, but it's kind of why I get annoyed that people don't do more theatre studies when they're in school, or it's not kind of focused on when you're in a kid, because the ability to speak in public and the ability to articulate yourself is so important in literally everything you do.
100%.
Everything you do. And I think that it's one of those things that really enhances this particular area.
Yeah, charisma is a huge factor in just being able to, add something to what. Good commentary relies, I think, on charisma.
I mean,
It
for me,
relies.
I think that's all of commentary. Like, I really do. Like, for me, and sort of moving on a little bit in regards to commentary in the EU, I think sometimes that's actually what we're lacking, because especially a lot of the EU, I say EU specific, but outside of UK commentators. So I'm thinking of here people like Mr. Funk, for example.
King Funk.
So much
Not Mr.
analysis. King
Funk,
Funk,
King
sorry.
Funk.
Like, so much analysis. Like, so like brilliant knowledge of the game, but
It's very
lacking
flat,
a little bit that charisma. And for me, obviously, we've talked a little bit about it being a personal thing, so people liking individual things from the commentators. But for me, if you've got the personality, or if you can keep me entertained, or if you can make me laugh, or you can do something like that, I will watch. When I think that that is the key thing. I think, honestly, that it can be one of the things that carry you through. I just find it interesting that a lot of what I've read feedback-wise is the complete opposite. Like, a lot of them have been like, the analysis, and you need to be a top player to understand the game and then talk about it and this and that. And I just find that
Really, I've
strange. It's not what I expected.
I've seen a mix of both. I'm pretty sure I saw someone on one of the threads on Melee UK talking about how it feels like in Europe we need to force hype. I don't think that's personally true. I think we have a lot of hype commentators, like Mr. Love alone.
Fausta.
Yes,
Faust, I mean, he is hype. He's hype incarnate. I mean,
yeah, Fausta, is like the example of like, if you just took all of the excitement of 15 years of one game and just crammed it into one person's body, and then just had that person with a microphone, like, he is just he's I think one of the most passionate men in Europe. He loves this game, and you can hear it in his, like Bowie said, obviously with charisma and vocal tones. You can tell he loves this game. That's one of the reasons I love, like, that Fausto is definitely one of my favorite commentators, because he just has that raw emotion and passion for this game and the community that he's willing to just scream into a microphone, because that is just what the emotion he's feeling. He's feeling that excitement.
but I've seen a lot of criticism for him that he's too far the other way.
Oh yeah, he can be. He can be.
That it is all that, that it's too much of that.
I understand that. 100%, and that is a problem. Like, you need to know the sort of cutoff point where you are sort of like, because obviously we've talked about making it exciting for the viewer, but if you have too much of that, it does feel like it has gone past the point where it does feel forced.
It's not just that, though. It's also the fact that with someone who's going to be screaming their head off constantly, you've got to remember, and this is something that Bowie picked up on earlier, and I think this is actually quite a serious part of what it means to commentate well, and what it means to have like good, presentable, like marketable commentary. There's two of you, right?
Yeah.
And how you play off of each other, and
Yeah,
how both of you have to there has to be balance, there has to be coordination. There has to be chemistry between the two of you, I think, when you're going to be commentating. This is why one of the reasons I think that we need to step up our game with regards to commentary, because we don't have many of these, but we need like actually recognizable duos. I think the importance of having like a set co-commentator, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
we got-
Scar and Taupe always work together, and the reason
Yes,
is because
exactly.
they're great together, and people recognise that brand of the Scar and Taupe show. That's what that's why they.
Yeah.
we used to have
So they
D1
do
and
it.
Prog a lot when Prog was still working.
We have HMW and Phil now for going for other American scene. I think right now, well, from what I heard in the venue from some of the Smash 4 guys, Bowie and Silent Doom was loved by so many people. Just walking around, I was talking to some of the Smash 4 guys and they were all like, oh yeah, I can't wait to hear, Bowie and Silent Doom commentate this set or this set. And I was like, oh, okay, because,
Oh.
no, go for it.
I will be the first to say that Silent Doom is an absolutely fantastic commentator.
I love Jordan. I
Like,
love Jordan so much.
Absolutely brilliant, and the reason being is because he's so wonderfully eloquent, and yet one of the most fantastic analysts I've worked with in Smash. Obviously, you may know Silent Doom. For those of you who are listening, he was part of the PM dev team, so obviously he knows. He's been part of the community that made a game for the community.
Yeah.
You can see his love for it, and he's
He's a very good player as well. So
he's a very talented player, and it stems from that. His analytics stem from that ability to play the game and how much he loves it, and so he is definitely an analytical commentator, but he's so eloquent that he can do the play-by-play, to a solid degree as well. But his definite focus is analytics, but the thing is that eloquence allows him to really find a way to get excited about stuff, just because, and that's where the passion for that and the loves comes from. And the reason that he and I work so well together is because that's the thing. I just focus on the play-by-play, and he'll just find those moments that he knows that I'm going to say, all right, I said something, you analyze what I just said, or you find your moment to pick something up. Like, he and I have a chemistry that fortunately we don't need to really think about it too much. Like,
Is that a natural thing though, or is that something you've discussed? Is there pre-thought behind that, or is that just something that happened naturally of its own accord?
it's really weird actually. Jordan and I'm trying to think where I first met him. I think it was at Heir to the Throne 1, maybe it was before, but we're doubles partners in Smash 4 now.
Right, okay.
And it's just like, we all do, we're just good friends, and it's like, I kind of I picked up commentary maybe about a year and a half ago, and it's kind of like I knew that I wasn't that great a player, but I enjoyed playing it, and I wanted to kind of put my skills elsewhere, and that's why I wanted to do commentary.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that he knew a lot about it, and I was like, do you want to try this together? And we were lucky that we did work out. I think at first we were like, well, let's just try this for now. And at first it was very much that it was just very kind of quite middle of the road, play by play, a little bit of analyzing with no color, but we've slowly built up each other that we can build that together. That neither of us are hugely hype, as it were, but we throw enough into the ring together that we can get there.
Right.
It's pretty similar to being a good doubles team, isn't it? Like,
yeah,
Complement each other.
Yeah, I think that Doom is a fantastic commentator, and he should do it a lot more. I'd say he's the best commentator we have in UK.
Really? What, for Smash 4 and just in general?
Smash 4, I'd say for sure. Unfortunately, I haven't heard as much of the Melee UK commentary to know, but
it would be interesting actually to go around all three of you and sort of, is there any commentators you've seen, or any commentators that you've seen potential in, or who genuinely do you think are the better commentators in the UK?
Me, mate. No, I'm kidding. For me, actually, there is a very, very, I think, overlooked duo in the UK, which I didn't really think about until I was like just talking to them and then heard their commentary when I was at Beast. Harvey and G from Wales are really bloody good at commentating, because they do have that sort of complementary style. Like, obviously, they haven't had that exposure to commentate on a grander scale yet, and I think Beast was actually their first real foray into Melee commentary on a large scale. I know G was commentating a lot of top 32 doubles, having very little commentary experience, but he held his own. And I think that alone speaks volumes about him as a commentator and as a smasher if he's able to sort of go into this with very little knowledge and preparation in terms of commentating on that grander scale in front of a large number of people. He did a good job, and people enjoyed their commentary. And I really do endorse Harvey and G as much as I possibly can to anyone who I talk to about commentary, because I do believe those two will be, I think personally, because I do think that eventually our streaming will step up in terms of Smash Brothers, and we will have people who will become notable in terms of commentary. I do believe they're going to be one of those commentary pairs that people do talk about. Harvey and G. That's just my prediction anyway. I don't know, but I love.
What about you, Lawrence? Have you got any particular people or duos or anything like that you've seen that you just think, actually, you know what, they could be good, or they're good now, or they've got potential, or
in the UK, you say?
Yeah, I'd say. I mean, UK specifically. I think that I think the outside of the UK, I think it's quite clear who the better commentators are. But the UK,
the ones we've seen anyway, the ones who get
of course. But yeah, I guess UK.
Well, I mean, yeah, I do agree. Like, these guys have got that Harvey and G have definitely got something going for them in terms of they've already got like a nice mesh duo thing going on, and they did commentate Beast very well, so that's fantastic. With regards to just good overall commentators, I think in the UK. I mean, is this for both games? Is it?
Yeah,
Or
I mean, I guess a lot of what we're talking about is that it seems like a lot of the skills are transferable. Obviously there are definite sort of specifics for Smash 4 knowledge and Melee knowledge and stuff like this, but when Bowie's talking specifically about Jordan Silent Doom, it seems like I'm pretty sure he could do just as well in Melee. Like, I don't think
he most certainly could. I think all of the key things that make commentary solid are universal to anything. But
absolutely.
The specifics of the game.
In Melee, I mean, Prof's a pretty good commentator, to be honest. Like,
I've never heard Prof commentate.
I've heard Prof commentate. It's
actually,
a very interesting experience.
I'll tell you, as someone who used to commentate that I haven't heard for ages, JJ Linyard.
Oh,
yeah,
JJ
where's
amazing.
he?
Yeah.
Where's he gone? He was really good. I mean, he's
for
a while.
Paris. He's in Paris.
For a while, I mean,
he's a great
he was sort of known
yeah.
as, he was like the UK commentator for a while, wasn't he, for Melee? Like, he was one of the main guys.
Oh yeah, he used to commentate as a duo with Kip, and they've
Kip Koski. Oh my word, what a legend!
And both of them are very inactive now, which is a shame because they were a very good duo. Yeah, they
Kip
commentated Yeah, he did. Like they commentated the bulk of Air 1.
Didn't JJ and Kip get on for Beast 4 as well?
That as well. They were an old school commentary duo. They were great. That's one of the things. Like, yeah, if you've got, I think there's an importance of having an established duo there. It's more recognizable. You know what I mean? So they had that going for them, and they also were just very good commentators, both in their own right. JJ was brilliant, very good. Fuzzy's also a very good commentator, actually. I like Fuzzy's commentary. I rate it. I think some people, I mean, he knows a lot about the game, for sure. He's a very good player. And he knows a lot about, like, just games in general, fighting games, all the rest of it, fundamentals. He's got very good fundamentals. So, with that regard, he's one of the sort of players I think qualifies as a good analytical player just because he does have a lot of insight.
Yeah, I think for me, personally with Fuzzy, as I said, he's one of those, I think he's a case for me that he's got really good content, but he needs to find a way to present it, because I think that's kind of one of his weaker areas. Like, he needs to kind of tone back some of his characteristics that can be quite, can be quite, what's the word I'm looking for? I want to say awkward, but not really. I guess that can rub people up the wrong way, and he just needs to kind of focus a little bit more. But his content is solid.
His content is very solid. One thing I will say, and shout outs to you, Charles, but one thing I will say is that what happened, and Henry, you'll know about this, is that Mr. Love, because Mr. Love does care an awful lot about EU commentary, credit to him.
Yeah.
After Beast, he he specifically made a Reddit thread where people could provide constructive
Yeah.
criticism for the
Yeah, I
commentary
remember this.
for Melee, right?
Mm-hmm.
He said, I'm going to do this for Melee. I recommend the Smash 4 players do the
They
same.
did get one for Smash 4 as well.
Yeah, they did. Did they?
Yeah, I think.
Yeah. Doom made it.
Yeah, Doom made it.
Ah, right. So, well, basically, for Melee, one of the things that it's, I mean, like, people were saying that sort of thing about Fuzzy. He didn't, from what I saw, like, he was very defensive about criticism.
Do you know the top rated comment about the
It was
criticism?
yours, wasn't it, Dale?
Fuzzy. Might have been me.
It was Dale.
Yeah, because
No,
you provided constructive criticism and he got all defensive.
I mean, because if anyone's seen it, you'll know what I said. But basically, I said that sometimes he didn't feel like a commentator. He felt like a top player talking about the bad thing that the bad player did on
Honestly,
screen.
when you said that, it just reminded me of.
I'm gonna find this thread again now. I need to see it.
But like,
I think that's very valid. It's very valid. I agree.
You know, and it wasn't, and he did get quite defensive because he was like, "Well, do you not want me to point out the mistakes and stuff like that?" And obviously, that's for some people, that's a valuable resource. There's a lot of people watching, I guess, would actually quite like to see that. But to me personally, that doesn't feel like commentary. That feels like, he could be sat next to me in a chair in the audience doing that. Do you know what I mean? That doesn't feel like he's providing an experience. It doesn't seem like he's enhancing the stream. He's just, and sometimes in the way he does it as well, and I hope he doesn't do it this wrong way, but sometimes it can come across as a little arrogant. We know he's not arrogant. We spoke to him. We know what he's like. We know what he's like as a person, but sometimes he's like, oof, don't do that. That was bad. Or, oh, that was so bad. Or, do you know what I mean? Like, sometimes it can come across as like that. And I know that's not his intention, but...
You know what that style is really good for, but that doesn't apply to commentary really. But like, one thing we don't have enough of, in my opinion, is good match analysis for players to watch and learn. That's amazing for stuff like that, but that doesn't
absolutely, yeah.
Match analysis is a different kind of thing that needs to. Either that becomes part of the production value and there's kind of a segment between sets that's taken into account to have an analyst desk to go, let's break down that game, League of Legends style, which, do we have the production value to do that? Some areas do. Geeky Goon Squad's got some incredible production values. America's got some incredible production values, maybe. But on the smaller scale, our kind of scale, look at the let's be serious, we are kind of small scale. We don't really have the luxury of being able to do that unless, there's a side bit where, people in our position are going out of their way to create videos on this. So like you say, let's create a brand new video series. We're going to go back over all of the, or as many games as we can pick out from a recent national or international, and
a good example of good solid match analysis, which is currently emerging, is the SDS guys, R23 and X1, who have started. They picked apart one of Lorenzo's games against Oates from DreamHack, and they picked apart Modest Major's game against Android. I'm trying not to, man. It's important.
But in that case, it's relaxed. They're not trying to be professional. They're being quite blunt. They're saying, well, this was good because this was bad because, and that's fine in that context. But if you couldn't take exactly what they're doing there and put them on, get them to do that top 8 at Beast, 7, for example, it wouldn't work.
There's a great example of that, which is, I remember HMW on his stream said he always likes to separate, like, Foundry from every other style of commentary you could possibly do. Like, Foundry... Like he says his Foundry is 2009 HMW. He says that everything else is 2015, 2016 HMW.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, where you have to be a little bit more restrained.
Yeah, because you can't be screaming "fuck 'em up, Jeff" at like the top of your lungs at like Big House. Like that's just not going to fly. Like, you do need to have that sort of separation.
Oh, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, as was just said there, different tournaments have different, I said it earlier in a kind of very wanky way, but they have different emotional narratives, and like, a weekly is not going to be, a grand finals at a weekly is not going to be like, amazing play. Like, you're not going to get an eye studying breakthrough every single week. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, but you can do that, but for different reasons. You can get like...
Yeah, but I'm saying, but it will just come across differently. You're not going to get that excited. You shouldn't get that excited, I don't think, because it just makes it, as I said, different tournaments have different meanings and different levels of play that you should adjust your commentary style to it, because some tournaments, like my weekly tournament, which obviously I took over from when Smash 4 and Melee decided to part ways in terms of location and venue. DMM Monday Meltdown is that I'm not going to get super hype. There are some hype moments and I get excited for them, but it's not. DMM is not esports. DMM is a weekly, and
that's
like,
where. No, after you.
No, I was finished. I just kind of said something.
All right. Well, what I was going to say was that this is also a part of what it means, I think, if you want to be again, like it's adaptation, isn't it? Because if you're commentating at a weekly at something like DMM, or if we got our act together and we had some internet and all the rest of it at Hog, then maybe we could get some. It would be. I really want some of these guys to try commentating. You know what I mean? Some of the guys at Hog, because there are some good players there, and I feel that if people know what they're doing, or just the ones who are charismatic, I think it would be they could have some fun. They can enjoy themselves on the mic. I mean, we did a little bit of recording. And there were a couple of moments where I was really enjoying what I was hearing from people who've never commentated before, just because they were having a laugh. And if it's making you laugh, I think that's good in that setting. So yeah, absolutely, I agree with you in the sense of in different settings, you want different styles of commentary, especially at like a weekly. You want like entertaining commentary, because most of the content is going to be not exactly top level, so you just
it's also not going to be unique, because every week you get some similar players who always show up, and it'll be perhaps you might get similar results. At something like a major, people bring their A game, and not only the players will be the players' quality will be better, but individual moments will have more meaning and more kind of backing that the game will just be much more interesting,
But this is also something with regards to when you commentate. A lot of people commentate about the game. That's great, but a lot of the time, what I like to do personally when I commentate is talk a lot about the players, right? And I think a lot of commentators try to emphasize this, and especially when people talk about commentary prep, one of the most important things to do is to research these players, right? And so, say at weeklies, for example, if you say okay, these two are playing, you can say, well, they're rivals. You know what I mean? There's some drama. These guys always play, and it goes either way.
Storylines.
Yeah, exactly. It makes it more engaging.
That's actually one of my biggest pet peeves with commentators. I saw on SSS the other weekend, Peaches, and when I saw the name Peaches, I was freaking out, because Peaches is a very, very old school smasher from 2003 or 2002 era, all the way back, and he's now a speedrunner predominantly. And the commentators went, "Who's this Peaches guy? He seems pretty new though, but he's looking pretty good." And I was just, I was so ready to just pop off in the chat, but I just hide Twitch chat, because Twitch chat is just the worst thing ever. But reading that, it's it clearly showed that it's just SSS, but these guys were I can't remember what the commentary duo was. I think it was Jace and someone else. Two guys who have commentated before, but just not having any knowledge of this guy who'd been to previous SSSs before. Just popping in once in a while and just playing his doc, but not knowing who Peaches is, who is a very, very old school smasher, and who did make the effort back in the Midwest in the days when him and Cosmo were still active Melee players.
Narcissa.
Narcissa, of course. Yeah, apologies. But when those two were very predominant in the Melee and Smash communities, people will know who Narcissa is, but people won't know Peaches, and it's just that little bit extra, that little bit extra mileage. Now SSS is a monthly, and people have that opportunity to do the research in between times, when you can see this sign up registry is so easily available now that we're running a tournament in the Northeast, SNES, and our list of players who are signed up and registered and paid is just up on the page, so you can see. And I think that extra mile for commentators, I feel, is slightly important, because it allows you to expand on your commentary and give a little bit more insight into the history. Not like Lorenzo said, it's not just about the game, it's the community as well. That's I think one of the crucial parts, and it's one of the reasons I'm still one of the reasons I'm a commentator, because the community is a big part of it. I think I think at this point it's the most important part for me. Like I love Melee and I do love all the other Smash games, but the community is I think what keeps bringing me back in the end. And I think that is what I think I in some ways try and portray in my commentary, like how important the community is. That the game is great, the game is bloody brilliant, and it keeps itself alive. But at the same time, it's the community and the people who are passionate about it who do go that extra mile, and that's just what that's my 2 cents on it.
Yeah,
I think also even just with regard not just with regard to like storylines, like players' backgrounds, all the rest of it. Even if you don't know who these players are, you can still when I commentate, and I mean I don't do it that often, but when I do it, I like to examine the psychology of what's going on. So if you see a player and you look at it and you sort of get an idea of his habits, or you think this is a particularly you think this player is, you can see what his play style is, you can see how. I think that's interesting as well. I think you can add something by basically you can present these players as, if you're talking about presentation as well, because presentation is everything with regards to commentary, then just presenting the players as well as, I guess, especially, I mean, if they're good players as well, you can, there's some there's what's the word I'm looking for? There's something iconic about it, and about higher, top players. There's something iconic about for example, Black Moth on FD or something like that, but with Mutaking. But just the idea of being able to present these players as more than just two guys playing a game of Smash Brothers, basically.
Isn't that hard to do though at the lower
levels? It's very
levels?
hard. It is, but it is certainly. This is one thing where it becomes, I think, slightly easier when you're commentating higher up. If you're lucky enough to commentate higher, more top 8s or whatever, then I think this is. I mean, for one thing, also the gameplay is better, which I think, in my opinion, makes commentary easier. Because there's less space to fill. But just making any Smash, game of Smash interesting by the way you commentate it. If you think about the players as well, as especially if the game, if the gameplay, as you said, is fairly similar some of the time, it's still adding something, I think, to what's going on with regards to
Yeah, I agree with that.
So, what would you three say? Because obviously, I mean, I've started doing a little bit of commentary, and it's still
your commentary's godlike. So you just get drunk and just shit on Rob for an hour.
A lot of people would argue, Henry, that
don't do that in top 8, boys and girls.
Exactly. But I mean, what would
do it top 8 of the Foundry?
As a new commentator, what would be your advice? I mean, if you were to sort of say, someone quite green came up to you like me or someone else, and they said, right, I'm trying to get into commentary. What would sort of be the best advice you could give?
The most important bit of advice I've ever been given was given to me when I first joined the community by Prog, after I'd just seen my first reintroduction into what Smash was. Because I remember in 2010 I watched Ken versus PC Chris, and I was like, okay, that's cool, whatever. I'm gonna go play COD now for 7 hours on the trot. When I joined, when I saw that Apex 2012 crew battle of USA versus the world, and I heard Dogi Samic and Prog, who to this day are still my favourite commentators of all time, and I love both of them. When I was talking to them on Twitter, and I was like, hey, you guys are amazing, what do I do to get into commentary? They both gave me some of the most important advice I've ever been given, which is, be a competitor first. Play the game, understand what it feels like to play that game. And I thought, okay, that's pretty interesting, because it's like we've been saying, if you don't have a handle on what you're talking about, then how can anyone, like, if you're not confident in what you're saying, then how is anyone else going to be confident in you, in what you're saying? Like, if you know, like, for me now, I've come to the realization that I do occasionally spread stupid misinformation. Like, it's so clear that it's so bad misinformation now. I'm so aware of it, and it still irks me to this day. That I still feel the need to apologise to VA for saying he was from Southampton rather than Brighton, or just saying he was from South Coast. You know, that sort of shit still irks me. But like, as I'm progressing as a commentator and developing my knowledge of this game and this community, I learn new things, and I've become confident in my information because I back it up. I do my research. I know now, you know, where people are from and who they have played, what their history in this community is. And I think that's all sort of spawned from being this competitor. Like, I'm still a competitor. I still enter melee events. I beat my second seed at Beast. I'm throwing in a bit of a blow my own trumpet moment there. But, you know, I've still experienced, you know, playing this game at tournaments. And I've experienced what it's like to sometimes play incredibly well and even place in the money. And I've experienced those moments of just going 0-2 and feeling like utter garbage. When you feel the emotions you feel as a player, it can translate into so much more, I believe. So that's what I've had at Beast, people came up to me and asked me, like, oh, how did you get into commentary? I was like, I played the game, and I like the game a lot, and I like it enough to talk about it in front of lots of people. And I feel like that's sort of what my general story of being a commentator has been. You know, I went to we did that whole Northeast, those whole Northeast meetups, and one day we just had a stream, and then someone handed me a microphone, and I was like, okay, cool, let's do this now. And this is what my life has become, and I am trying not to take any of it for granted. It's just sort of like, yeah, that's what I give advice to new commentators on, is just be the competitor, experience the community, and you know, have that passion for the game and the community. I don't know whether that's the same for anyone else, but that's just...
I mean, that's wonderfully said. To say that, obviously, be a player first, get involved with the community first is the only way to do it, because, you know, it extends. You know, if you love the community and you love the game, either you'll find the passion for it or you won't. And, you know, personally, you know, I mean, I'm lucky that it came from my own personal background of acting, that this kind of style of thing actually was informed by that. I wanted to bring that particular skill set to this community because I think it's unique. I wanted to give back to the community that, you know, has welcomed me in with open arms and has kind of given me some very amazing experiences over.
We love you, Bowie. We love you.
It's true, because I mean, I didn't, you know, what am I thinking? I grew up and, you know, played games personally and loved games personally. Always, you know, was shunned for liking games, and then, you know, games as a whole became more popular as you get older. But then, you know, I left drama school and was kind of, you know, just working and all that kind of stuff. And then I joined this community, and before I knew it, I'd been to the Netherlands, I'd been to Germany, I'd been to Sweden, you know, I've been to France, I've been to all these places just thanks to, you know, and all up and down the UK thanks to one community and one game. And you think, you know, what can I do to give back to that? And what else can I do than tell the story? In terms of, you know, and in that regard, I think that Skrull's hit the nail on the head. But play the game, become part of the community. But, you know, beyond that, the thing that I'd say, you know, about new commentators is, it's not always as easy as it sounds, but find where your strengths are and then hone them. Don't, you know, if you want to be a hype commentator but you're not good at it, and you find that everyone's saying, but your analytics are so good, you know, don't just shun the fact that you're not as good at other things, but find your strengths, play on it, and then let what you really want to do infuse into it. As I said, you know, I have been very open with the fact that every time I go on commentary, I said that I am not an analytics kind of guy. You know, when I was at Beast 5, I said that Luigi's Nair was frame 1. It's frame 3. You know, that was a terrible error.
Don't worry, you haven't said that two players who definitely aren't related are related yet, because that's a mistake I've made, and it's not fun to deal with.
I got a B6. Where is Time Muffin PhD from? And I went north of London because I didn't know. but like
you're right.
Yeah, exactly. You know, but it's like, I know where my strengths lie, and that's in play by play, and I'm not gonna, you know, sit there and try and be something I'm not. I will I've worked on my analytics, I've worked on my color, but my strength is PvP. Find that strength, hone that strength, and then from there you'll grow.
Exactly. Couldn't agree more.
That.
What about you, Lawrence?
For me, since we've already established that you have to play the game, which should entirely be going without saying, I completely agree with both of you. For me, if we have because I think there are a lot of, for example, in the London scene, in the London Melee scene, we have new blood. We have guys who are good, who are great players, who are certainly part of the community and growing very, very much as players. If any, those of them that would like to at least try a bit of commentary. Okay, so we've already established that they're players. They have some idea of how the game. They have some insight to give. So. Because that's just grounding. I think that's necessary, absolutely. But then, for me, if you're going to be a new, for new commentators, I think some of the biggest things that you shouldn't do, you shouldn't say anything just for the sake of saying it. As in, you should have a reason for whatever you're saying. Even if it's just for entertainment value, there's still going to be reason to it. There's no point just naming moves. That's what some people resort to, and that's just pointless. You might as well not say anything. Whereas, if you're basically try to think about what's going on and then articulate it, it's very hard to begin with. Just not everybody is naturally very eloquent or very charismatic, so. That comes with time, I think. I think you just have to do it and practice it, and just it'll get better with time. It's like playing the game. You just got to play it. Obviously, and more importantly than that, you've got to think. So when just be very mindful when you're talking on commentary, especially when you're starting out. Unless you're a personality and you can. And depending on the setting, if you want to do serious commentary though, so not just I think for me, you just try to be really mindful when you're talking, and try not to say, and just primarily because this is what really annoys me when I listen to other commentary, is just don't say stuff for the sake of saying it, especially when it as has been mentioned, especially when you're not 100% on your facts. If you're just gonna throw out things that are wrong, that's gonna really devalue what you're saying. So just be mindful and say what you know and say what you think, but do a lot of thinking and just don't be mindless. It's like playing the game. Think, don't be mindless.
Exactly.
I think just as a kind of aside to that as well, it's I personally take it very seriously. As in, I'll be silly and I'll be funny and all that kind of stuff, and I'm not super serious all the time. But it's not something you can just half-ass.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely.
Respect the craft, and
if you're gonna do it properly.
Yeah, do it right.
That's one of the things I've always sort of felt when I was at Air 2 and there were people going this, when there was a whole thing about people not being as we've mentioned before, professional, or the professionals holding professional standards on commentary. And I was on commentary with a number of people who were all sorts of different varying levels of professional. Some were cursing, some were just not paying attention, just speaking their mind. And I take commentary seriously. I really do. I take it as seriously as when I'm playing a tournament. I do want to, I want to do well. I want to portray, that I do know what I'm doing, and I'm going to, carry full. If I'm at a tournament where the sets are being recorded and someone goes, "Hey, do you want to commentate?" and I say, "Is this 100% serious?" and they say no. One of the examples was Shine and Dine in Leeds. It was a great event. Wonderfully run by TFU, and I said, "Is it okay if I just sit on commentary, but not be 100% professional?" And I said, "I will still maintain part of my professionalism, but I do want to just sort of relax. I'm not here to comment. I was there to play." And he's like, "Yep, sure, 100%." And the VODs exist somewhere of me just talking, not only about the game, but also just being relaxed, and I think it is sort of like very crucial to sort of know when to be professional and when to take it like seriously. And I do try and sort of maintain some level of seriousness in all of my commentary.
I mean, as kind of closing, I'm not sure how close we are to closing, but like,
Yeah,
it
we'll start.
seems like we're winding down.
Yeah.
Like, there was a couple of things that I think we need to talk about.
Yeah.
One of the things I think, and then after this, I want to make a point about. First of all, I think we need to talk about recently beast commentary, and I think we were talking earlier about bringing all together a lot of things we've been talking about being a window into the game, into a scene.
This is something that we talked about on the day at Beast, but I will let you take it on because you need to talk about this, honestly.
Yeah,
this is better from your mouth.
It's I think that there were some decisions made at B6 that I think greatly inhibited the European scene. And I'm going to specifically speak about Top 8 Single Smash 4, which was given initially to Max and Cyanide, two American commentators, whilst were very, very good commentators. I'm not going to discredit their ability because they're very, very solid. They have their own different styles. People like it, or they didn't, but they're good at what they do. I at first wasn't too. I thought it was fine because Cyanide's based in Germany, but he is an American. When I figured that out, I was like, I went to VJ, the guy who was sorting out the stream, and said, "Why do we have two American commentators for Top 8 at a European major?" And I got into a bit of a tizzwas with him about this because the thing is, like, I'm not saying that because I was worried about him thinking that I wanted it, I deserved it because I did it last year with D1. It wasn't about that. It was about the case of we had 10 to 4 between starting Top 8 and ending Top 8, 10 to 40,000 people watching, and
rep the EU.
Yeah, and it's like when you're showing off the European major, and what everyone can hear is American voices. Even if it is in Europe and the players are different, what they're hearing is not, and it comes across as a very American product, and which completely stilted our ability to be to show this is our scene, this is our time to shine. You've got Apex, you've got Big House, you got Evo, you got Pound,
and Genesis. That's now Genesis and Pound, two of the biggest tournaments in the history of Smash, are back, and all
these massive tournaments, and we had our biggest one at 660 odd people. And you gave and the voice of that tournament for the biggest moments in that tournament were American voices.
Yeah.
And again, it's not about discrediting the commentary because it was good commentary, but it should have been ours. I didn't even mind if it was me. You could have put Silent Doom on. You could have put Geisberg on. He's a very solid commentator as well. It wasn't about somebody. It was about Europe. It could have been Max and a European, but just one European voice would have been enough.
That's what I liked about what they did at Beast 5 last year when they had you in D1, they had Mike Hager in D1, they had, a recognizable voice for people to sort of feel comfortable with, but they also had that strong European representation of yourself and Mike Hager.
Yeah. And that's why, originally it was just going to be Max and Cyanide doing all of Top 8, and I'm not sure if Max and Cyanide know this, but maybe this is the first time hearing them and they're going to hate me for it. But I said to VJ that there needs to be a European voice in there, and that was why it split. So that Max and Cyanide did the first half of Top 8 doubles, and Silent Doom and I finished it, and then Silent Doom and I did the first half of Top 8 singles, and Cyanide and Max finished it. And that happened because I had to go and speak to VJ because it just wasn't, in my opinion, it wasn't on because our scene was, it was our time to shine. It was our tournament.
Yeah.
Look, these, as you said, why would they begrudge that when they have, X number of, majors and super majors in America to commentate?
And also the thing is as well is that the reason, and I spoke to Victor about it, and he was very honest with the reasoning why behind it, and I respect it. I respect him for being being so very specific with his reasoning. Is he said that last year we only had D1 coming over, and suddenly he had all these American people and all these big well-known commentators saying we want in, so he just put them on Top 8 as like a reaction.
Yeah, it's fair.
And I understand that. Suddenly there's so much more demand for commentary. What do you do with it? And it's a panic, it's a reaction. But the thing is, if I was to go over to America, to Apex, and say, Gimmer, I want to do commentary. I'm coming over only for commentary. Would they give me Top 8? Like hell would they give me Top 8. They'd probably give me, a low bracket or a pools section, but they wouldn't give me anything that's revered in their scene. and I mean, again, this is not to discredit, but it's not like Max is, the top your Smash 4 commentator. It's not like he's D1. He's very, very good, but he's not at that huge, widespread, worldwide popularity level. Is he's very, very good, but it's a different background to the person. And I think it was, we wouldn't get that treatment if we went over to there. We shouldn't. It's not that we should not like tooth, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. But it's like it's already so America centric, this scene, because they're the biggest scene, the most impressive scene. Let's say, if the more you pander to the American scene, the more they expect it, and we need to be able to stand up for ourselves and say, "This is our scene. You'll play by our rules."
Well, I mean, it's just a case of. It's exactly the same principle as us trying to grow ourselves just as a community in general. I mean, we don't have all these majors. We don't have all these established personalities. We don't have all this financial backing, as you said.
True.
We have a scene we're trying to grow, and it is growing, and like the standard of Smash in both games is getting increasingly better. I mean, we have it, because because in terms of an average, you want like really, really, the average is improving in both games because it always used to be okay. The Europe's free, right? Like Europe, like not there are hardly any Europeans apart from Mr. R, Armada.
I remember when I first looked at the Apex 2012 results thing, and I was like, okay, there's Armada. And then all of these Americans, and then I think I saw maybe Over Triforce and Straw Hat Daheen and Amsa, and that was about it. And as time has gone on, and even with like Brawl and stuff, because Brawl was still prominent in 2012, the top European names to be appearing.
Mr. R, innit?
Mr. R and Leon,
Oh, Leon, man, he's so good.
Leon's Marth. Leon and Mr. R, the sickest, and Gluttony, I guess, when Gluttony went over.
Yeah, Gluttony was good, yeah.
Gluttony's sick. But those were the only real names that were making appearances because we obviously used to talk about the meme of the gap in the Melee scene, but the gap in the skill, it was still prominent because they were making the most effort. And of course now we've got Professor Pro who has excelled beyond. Like, I remember talking to Prof and he was like, I just wish Fuzzy would play more so I'd have some bloody competition. And I don't even blame him for saying that because our average of good players is increasing at a constant rate, but it isn't. Yes,
but the difference between that top level,
exactly. That but is so important because even when I think ice studying is going to, possibly be something really big in Smash 4 because he was so enjoyable to watch, and not just that, he's also really bloody good taking out two of the best American players
on home turf.
Yeah.
Home turf.
Ice studying, that was the thing. What was so special about that? Just to kind of bring this around, just to kind of talk about this because it's been brought up now. The thing about ice studying is home turf. Two Americans came over thinking they were the shit, and they are the shit. Esam and Nvidia are amazing players.
Yeah,
and they weren't expecting it, and you saw game by game a player's dreams coming true.
It was wonderful. It was literally fairy tale. It was fairy tale-esque, and it was beautiful.
Yeah, and you he was just unstoppable. You saw him succeeding and succeeding and succeeding, and the next challenge came along. He went head on. Next challenge came along, and that was a narrative. Again, this is me maybe going back to the commentary thing, but that was a European narrative. Exactly. And you saw this moment where someone went, a player's just been brought onto the map. That's history right there. Yeah. That is Smash 4 history right there.
It helps that his Greninja's sick as well.
Oh, yeah.
It was really cool to watch.
Pretty good.
Anyway, just...
yeah, so we'll start to wrap up because it's...
Well, yeah, what I was going to say in conclusion to like the idea of growing a European scene, I mean, I think we could talk more about, for example, DreamHack and how... because we have Melee there, and that's huge. Like for us, it certainly is a European scene, but it was dominated by Americans. You 100%. Have and so this is the same sort of thing. Like if you're going to grow the European scene, wonderful. We are getting Americans over here at at a more regular basis, which is fantastic.
Which just shows how we're coming on, because for them to come over, they need a reason to come over.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's
not a
Yeah,
small
but
thing.
like, if they're going to come over, then it has to be that, as you said, it has to be them playing in Europe. It doesn't mean Europe becomes Americanized, right?
No. But what I mean is that if they're coming over, we're giving them a reason to, which means that we are getting better, we are increasing.
No, but
That's a good thing.
Absolutely. But what you also said was that it's got to be them coming here playing in Europe rather than.
No. What I said was them coming over shows that they're coming over for a reason.
Yeah, but you said before that, like you said, I think you said basically they have to be here and playing by our rules, more or less.
Oh,
But that
That's more
was
for commentary, isn't it?
That was more just a turn of phrase for the fact that when they are over, they're playing by our rules, because they're on our turf. That was just a phrasing rather than a particular.
Yeah, but also it also goes this, and the idea of how what you said to VJ with regards to the presentation of European Smash at the top, the top 8 of the largest European Smash tournament, right? You want it to be European, and that's because we have to continue to grow and solidify our identity in Smash on, because we're basically the other scene, right? I think that's sort of true. I mean, that we're more or less like there's America and there's us, right?
And Japan, but Japan is sort of like its own sort of solitary thing at this point. Like Japan is the outlier because there's no sort of like way of, I'd say, comparing that. Japan's scene for Smash 4 is big because Japan was more so, in terms of the history of Smash, more willing to leave Melee behind and move on to Brawl. The same with Brawl, leave Brawl, move on to Smash 4. Like most of the Brawl players that you saw who became big names in Brawl, like Nietano, Abadango, I think even Otori to some extent, they all moved on to Smash 4 because that was just that's the way that they do things in Japan. They are willing to move on and to be involved with these new big ideas in terms of video games. Whereas I think one of the reasons Melee survived so long is because people were passionate about it and were willing to cling on to it. And, we still have those amazing Japanese Melee players like, off the top of my head, Amsa, Sheik, and so many others who, like Kunatori, Zoma, who's a Mewtwo player. They're all great, but the way of varying... Flash retired because he went over to America and America treated him poorly.
Oh, really?
Does Captain Jack still play?
Captain Jack is returning to Smash, actually.
This is why I brought it up. I remember him saying this, yeah.
That's playing Smash 4 and Melee, so that'll be interesting. But yeah, it is that idea that, to an extent, Lorenzo, you're absolutely right. We are that other scene. Like, we are the scene that select people in America know about. Like,
they always knew about us because of Armada, right? But then...
Yeah, pretty much. People knew about it. We
just need more players. We need more players to reach that level, to challenge more.
It'll happen. It'll happen.
Yeah, it's all a matter of time. I think, just to wrap up for myself personally, in terms of European commentary, I do feel like we all sort of need to, like we've been saying, really need to evaluate where our strengths are. Because for me personally, just even throughout the course of this hour and a half, just me thinking about my own style of commentary, I have sort of realised that I am, my play-by-play might be fairly strong, but my knowledge of the history of this game and the history of like players and the game's history is much, much stronger than anything else than I maybe have. I think my voice, again, like I've already previously mentioned, I personally believe, which is obviously a biased first person perspective, but my skills in public speaking do sort of shine through, and like Bowie mentioned, the emotions I'm able to portray do sort of help make my commentary and my voice more endurable rather than, I don't know, boring to listen to, I suppose.
I think something we're definitely going to have to do is probably have another show on the same thing, because what we've covered a fraction of the things we want to talk about.
It's the iceberg theory. We've only covered what you see on the surface, but underneath is just a big hemorrhage of ice, which needs to be sort of discussed in some extent.
We'll have to do it again.
Oh, what? Definitely. 100%.
So massive thank you to all three of you. It's been really interesting. I'll be looking forward to seeing what the reaction is because I think we've covered.
I can't wait for all of the Melee UK posts saying how wrong we all are. It's going to be bloody wonderful. I can't wait for LC to jump in there as well. Carlson, do work, please.
The thing is, there's so much more to be said as well about this.
100%, yeah.
You know, I mentioned briefly professionalism, but I haven't mentioned exactly what's wrong or what we're missing right now. At least personally, in my opinion. But this is, again, this is only one podcast, and the conversations will keep going. They'll keep happening. I'm writing an article on commentary at the moment.
I cannot honestly wait to read that.
Yeah, that'll be good. That'll be good reading.
We'll see how it goes. I hope it's of the quality that people expect. But
I'm sure it'll be fine, my friend.
We're still growing, and we'll get there.
We're on the up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we had our first tastes of kind of like whenever everyone talks about esports, I think it's very much an American thing right now. But when we get a bit bigger, especially in Smash 4, when we unite a bit more. I guess in Melee, because the thing about Europe is that it's so broken, because it's a variety of different countries that all speak different languages, and it's not as easy to come together as it is for something like America, which is just one simple.
Well, there aren't as many big tournaments. I mean,
exactly.
People don't travel as much.
Oh yeah, it's quite expensive to travel in America and in Europe, but that's something that we'll address in time again.
Exactly,
so.
Yeah.
People in America travel though, because they have big they have big tournaments to go to.
To be fair, if you're willing to road,
I tell you what, guys, we're 1 hour 40 minutes in. This is what happens when you get 3 commentators to talk about commentary.
We have so
on
much
a podcast.
to say, man. You don't give someone an open platform and then be like, well, keep it limited. I've got emotions, man. I'm raging inside secretly.
I promise you, we'll do this again. All right. I don't know if you want to have a quick run around, sort of tell us where we can find you and
follow me on Twitter
and all that sort of stuff.
Bowie, go for it, because I know you're way more active on Twitch than I am.
Yeah, sure, no worries. Obviously, I've been Bowie, full name Bowie Alexander. You can find me on Twitter, which is at Bowie_Alexander. I stream regularly on Twitch, mainly speedruns, but I do throw out a bit of Smash Bros here and there at twitch.tv/Bowie the Hero. Don't ask where that's from. I guess that's really it in terms of social media. I have a Discord, which I'm going to be going public with at some point. But follow me on there if you're interested. Cheers.
Hennes?
You can follow me on Twitter at Skrull with 2 extra L's in the end, so SKRULLLL. If you want to follow me on Twitch, which I'm going to try and get back into soon because the Manchester scene is very sort of underdeveloped in terms of recording sets, you can follow me on there, twitch.tv/S2RULL. Of course, follow the amazing team of Smash House at Smash House UK. I think we have an Ask FM for this now, for questions at the end.
We didn't get many questions the first time around, but I didn't expect we would. It was a bit like the first time.
But that is which is ask.fm/SmashHouseUK. Go to, I don't know whether the Smash House site is even still up, but if you want to find that, smashhouse.com. And that's all of the plugs that I need to make. Sign up for SNES. That's what else you need to do. Sign up for SNES.
Lawrence?
Okay, well, you can follow me on Twitter at Lorenzo the Kind. I used to stream. I do have a Twitch at Lorenzo the Kind.
House of Hype.
Yeah, well, that still happens. I just don't stream it. But yeah, so also I am technically a part of Team SDS as well. So please follow them on Twitter. I'm pretty sure that's let me just it's at Smashdown South. If you want to follow them and sign up for, they've got a massive tournament coming up as well in April, I believe, isn't it? So, sign up. Which one is that again? It's South. Yes,
SCR 5, SCR 6.
I think it's SCR 7 at this point, isn't it?
South Coast Regionals.
You can tell how out of the loop I am. It's been all work at the moment. Anyway, so follow me at Lorenzo the Kind and follow them at Smashdown South.
That does remind me. Sorry, I just forgot one. The Smash 4 team that I'm part of. Can I do that one as well?
Yeah, Koshkin.
Yeah, I'm
Dat
sorry.
boys.
Yeah, which is Dat Team. So on Twitter at Dat Team Smash, and on Twitch, which is twitch.tv/Dat Team Live. Just in terms of coming up, so we've got a monthly coming up on the 19th of March, and then we've got a yet unannounced
Oh my
event.
god!
I'm not going to say the name. I'm not going to. It's going to be happening in May, but it's going to be Smash 4 and
It's on a
Melee.
weekend where actually I've got an exam.
Hi,
I'm
boys.
pissed.
It's full weekend. We're going
Oh,
into we're going like Smash 4 Melee
Let's
all out.
fucking go!
So we'll announce that soon. So obviously follow our Twitter if you want to know about that happening, and also
I'm
on
following your
Facebook,
Twitter
Dat Team
right
Smash
now.
on there as well.
Damn.
Happy days.
Brilliant. Well, again, thanks a lot, lads. Really, really appreciate it. I think it'll be a good listen. And like I said, we'll have to do it again because I think we barely scratched the surface in regards to all of the commentary stuff.
There's a lot to say, boys.
A lot to say, yeah.
All right, so I think it's goodbye from me and goodbye from everyone else.
Bye.
Cheers.
Take care.
Bye.
Stay
Thank you.
classy.